Whew. Well, this ought to be fun. Hello my crazies, Reagan from Horse Crazy Mama here, and you may have noticed a little bit of a change. You guys, I finally got my set all fixed. I'm so excited, and I found a camera, so I don't have to work with my stupid smartphone anymore. Whew. So I'm going to be talking about embarrassing moments today. I unfortunately don't have any footage of these because I always went to my horseback riding lessons on my own. Like, I drove myself there, I paid for it myself, just everything by myself, and I didn't really have anybody going with me to record or anything, and my trainer would have kicked my butt if I had recorded while I was riding. Yeah. But I wanted to tell you guys some stories and maybe just kind of encourage you if you're struggling in your own lessons, or if you are bored, or if you're just having a down day, maybe you'll get a chuckle. As you guys know, I'm not called the Horse Crazy Mama for no reason. I am literally horse crazy. One story that kind of illustrates this is once I was getting ready for a horseback riding lesson. I was tacking my horse. My lesson horse was a gorgeous flea-bitten gray mare. She was a Hanoverian and her name was Logan, which I hated. I thought it was a guy's name. I was so annoyed by that name. I called her Lolo or Gorgeous or Sweetie or whatever little pet name I could come up with that day. But once I was tacking her up, I was getting her all ready to go, and Logan loved to spook while I was tacking her up. I don't know what the whole deal was. I was only like 14 to 17 years old at the time. I would just kind of be moving around, kind of moseying about, and she just randomly decides to spook, and she's like yanking at her halter, and she's like moving her face back, and she so happens, her hind left foot so happens to land on my right foot. And you guys know how heavy a horse is. That foot went and I sat there internally screaming for a good 2 minutes. It was not fun, but finally my trainer was able to come up and kind of calm her down, and she asked me if I was okay, and I was like, yeah, I'm never better, because I did not want to miss my horseback riding lesson that day. I knew my foot was broken. I knew it. I finished tacking her up with a little bit of a limp, and I got in that saddle, and I rode that day. I rode my lesson, and I was in pain the entire time, but you know what? Gosh darn it, horses are worth it. Another funny story that kind of entails the same horse, she was kind of spooky. She was just a spooky horse, and she was kind of a diva, which honestly, all of those traits I just loved about her. She would not have been Logan had she not been spooky or a diva. But once we were doing some cross rails, just kind of perfecting my form over the jump before they started to get me onto the higher jumps. And I could not, like, I always had the hardest time getting her to turn because she was a dressage horse and she had leg signals that I didn't know at the time. I would try to turn her, and I must have been doing something with my leg, but she'd kind of do this thing where she'd like stick her stomach out and kind of keep going the direction she wants to keep going and not listen to me whatsoever. So I'd have the rein open, I'd be trying to move my leg in, kind of get her back on track, but she'd just keep going sideways. So we ended up doing this really goofy kind of dance walk across the jump yard. And there was one time where she was doing that exact same thing, and I was so frustrated. Like, I was trying everything that my little limited knowledge could dish out, and my instructor was like yelling instructions at me, and the horse was just keep going, and she didn't listen. And finally she got so close to the end. See, like, if this was the arena, this end was the barn or the hay shed or whatever that was, and then right here was the jump. So we'd go over the jump, and then we just keep doing like the sideways dance all the way to the barn until we almost hit the barn. And then she spooks and shoots off. And of course my seat's not very good, so I go plop down on the ground. It wasn't a very soft arena since it was outside, and you know how outside arenas go. And so I just landed, and the air was knocked out of me. And it so happened, just to make things worse, it so happened that an inspector was coming over that day to inspect safety protocols at the ranch. Yeah, One, I'm glad that I was wearing my helmet because I did smack my head on something. I can't even remember what it was. I think it was like a bucket or a wood pallet or something like that. Two, I'm glad that I was a lot younger back then because, of course, body's made of rubber. You could just bounce back up and act like nothing happened. But I was upset because it was so frustrating to try and get this horse to just turn after a jump that I just shouted at her. I was like, Logan! And my instructor was like, okay, Reagan, whose fault was that really? And I was like, damn it. I have to take responsibility for my own actions. I was like, yeah, it was probably mine. So I went and caught her again and got back in the saddle and we continued the lesson, and it was hilarious. But another thing that happened, another story, was we went out for a trail ride. It was my very first trail ride. I was so stoked. I was so excited, and we went in English saddles because my trainer was obsessed with English saddles. Like, I don't get it. I love English. I love to jump, and honestly, I'm more comfortable in an English saddle than I am in a Western. But I mean, it would make more sense to go on a trail ride in a Western saddle. But we were all in our English saddles, and we all tacked up our horses, and we went out into the mountains, and of course, Logan, being the diva that she was, I wish I had a picture of her, you guys. Like, she was so gorgeous. Oh, I loved her so much. But she was a diva, and she did not want to get her pretty little hooves wet. Every time we crossed a tiny little stream, which was quite often actually, she wouldn't just step over it or she wouldn't just walk through it. She had to jump over it. And these weren't like, you know, your typical jumper or hunter jumps. These were like little bunny hops. They were dainty little bunny hops from this 15.2 hand horse. And she just kind of bunny hop every time we reached a stream, no matter how I tried to sit back and, you know, relax my hands and try to get her to walk over it. She just bunny hop over every single little stream. And I was trying not to laugh because I thought she was adorable. And my instructor was like getting after me because I'm not controlling my horse. And I don't know, it was just, I found it entertaining. But in this same trip, we were on our way back from the ride, from watching our gorgeous, it was just a beautiful mountain view. We were on our way back and our instructor decides that we're ready for a more advanced trail. Even though this is our first trail ride ever, we're all in English saddles, and you know, a lot of us, like at least one of us, had a pony that would, you know, like bolt at the first opportunity it got. Of course, we go on this advanced trail and we're like kind of nervous, but it's going okay. And suddenly the person who had the pony that I was telling you about, his name was Clip Clop, was a really, really cute name. Or she guided him to the wrong trailhead. It was just like an offshoot. I suppose there was one that went down and one that went up, and we accidentally chose the one that went up. So we got up there and it just hit like a dead end, and we could hear our trainer like down the mountain a little ways, and he's like calling out to us like, you guys, you went the wrong way, you need to come back down here. And we were like, oh, whoops. Of course, we're trying to turn our horses around, and Clip Clop, he accidentally gets stuck in a bush. And he sits there and he's like crow hopping in this bush, just in one place. My friend, she gets off of her pony and she's just kind of looking at him like, crap, what do I do now? Another person, he's gone off somewhere. I'm pretty sure another person fell off of their horse. Logan and I, on the other hand, we decide we're just going to book it and go straight down from our precipice. And you know, I'm sure a lot of people know this already, but when you go down, you're supposed to lean back, right? Well, apparently I wasn't leaning back far enough, and I started slipping. And I slipped further and further until finally I was completely wrapped around Logan's neck. I was clinging on for dear life, and I was praying to God that I didn't tumble and fall and land in the thorny bushes that were below us. It was just a mess. I finally got down and I was like, I have to get off of her neck. I'm hurting my poor horse. And my trainer yelled at me, of course, and then he yelled at everybody else, of course, and then he yelled at even more people. I finally got back in. I was like checking Logan to make sure she wasn't hurt. There were some thorny bushes that we went down, and it was just a mess. So I was like checking to make sure she was okay, and I was checking to make sure I was okay, and my gosh. Yeah, our trail ride was not pretty. So this pony Clip Clop, he was a character and a half. Like, he just had personality galore. And he was kind of a tall pony. He was about 13 hands-ish. He was gorgeous strawberry roan, and he was quite chunky. Like, he was a fat little pony. He had some chub, but it was so cute. Like, he was so cute. And he had these fluffy little fetlocks and this long mane and tail, and he was so adorable. But he had personality, and when I say personality, I mean he really liked to be part of the group. And by that, I mean he would bolt towards any group of horses that he saw at any chance he got. And I felt so bad for my friend, because once we were getting ready, we were kind of cooling down after a lesson, and she decided she was going to head back towards the stables and, you know, untack and everything. And Clip Clop was very, very excited about this, and he took off. He had his nose pointed right there towards the stables, and he just shot off with my friend on his back. And she's like clinging on for dear life, you know, this tiny little girl, and she's like booking it. The rest of the class was just staring at her like, oh my gosh, that's so fast for a little fat pony, you know? It's amazing how fast a little fat pony can go. And finally, you know, my instructor kind of caught the horse and calmed him down and made him chill out. But my friend had a very good attitude about that. She thought it was a blast and that he was hilarious. But you know, horseback riding isn't always rainbows and roses, obviously. And it's not always just, oh, you can just laugh about it later either. I remember there was a horse show that I went to that I had worked months for. I was so excited about this show, and it was my first show that was like official, and I was on my own. I was going in the trailer, in this giant semi-trailer. I can't remember what they're called, but it had like a camper in the back of the hall, and then at least like 6 to 8 horse trailer in the back. It was massive. We called it Goliath. We actually got to ride in the camper, and like it was this whole day trip. It lasted ages. I was so excited about this show. I was like, I'm gonna win something today. Like, I'm gonna place. Well, we got there, and Logan, first of all, like, she was all decked out. Like this, I can't emphasize how gorgeous she was. Like, she's gorgeous. I had her braids all perfectly plaited, and I'd braided her tail, and I'd washed her down. And for a gray horse, like, she was almost white. She had like this little strawberry colored little red flecks everywhere. It was so pretty. But I had her tail braided and her mane braided, and she was just all decked out, and she was gorgeous. I got my tack all polished up, and I was all dressed to the nines, and you know, we went out there and we went to that arena, and we we did our best. It was not exactly the best in the world. Logan being a dressage horse and having never really jumped, her form was a little bit messy, of course. And me being green rider myself, my form wasn't exactly the best either. We were going up against these people who had been riding since they were, you know, teeny tiny, and they had been placed on these ponies that were trained essentially for the kid to just sit on the pony, and the pony does all the work while the kid just kind of sits there. That drives me nuts, but that's a rant for another day. So Logan and I, we did our absolute best, and we did not place. I think we got something like 12th. But my friend, she actually got 4th. I remember that was the hardest thing in the world, to sit there and congratulate my friend on actually getting a ribbon. And while I got absolutely nothing, even though I did my absolute best that I possibly could at the time. And I'm very, very competitive, so it was especially difficult for me to just kind of swallow my pride, speak with dignity, and congratulate my friend, and make sure that it was sincere, and make sure that she felt like she had really accomplished this great thing, because she definitely had. It was absolutely amazing. But I think that's enough story time for today. I hope you guys enjoyed these stories, and again, I apologize for not having footage of them. I never really had anybody who would sit there and record my rides. Apparently my family didn't record any of my rides. I could have sworn that they did, but we can't find the footage anywhere. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, be sure to comment below what your favorite story was. What funny stories have you seen or have you been part of, or what funny things have your horses done? Also, if you found these stories helpful or entertaining in any way, be sure to hit that subscribe button and ding that notification bell. And be sure to give this video a big thumbs up so that I know you loved it. Keep the crazy and horse crazy, y'all. See you next time. If you guys found these stories helpful or entertaining in any kind of way, be sure to hit that notification button and ding that notification bell